IBM, artificial intelligence, and can society cope with it? Please, Christoph, the stage is yours. And this is a dummy-proof version.
Okay.
The green button, go for it.
Okay. So, hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for having a full room. It's really exciting. As mentioned, Aurora already mentioned, I'm Christoph. I'm doing ecosystem development for Watson, which can be considered the artificial intelligence unit of IBM. And what I do on my daily basis is to help startups and corporations alike to identify what machine intelligence techniques can actually be used to benefit to their business, and then help them, of course, also to design the products that, of course, have usually the aim to go in some sort of the direction to achieving artificial intelligence, or machine intelligence, as I would call it. When we think about the questions, can our society cope with AI? I thought about it prior to that, of course, and I have some kind of findings that I want to share with you in the next 10-15 minutes. But first of all, since it was lunch break, I'm trying to catch your attention with one of our most intrinsic emotions, which is basically fear. When we think about artificial intelligence, it's usually something that is unknown. And humans tend to think into very extremes when thinking about something that is unknown. And one example, of course, extreme example, is doomsday. So doomsday, where machines on the one hand maybe only taking out a couple of jobs or maybe millions of jobs, but on the other hand with the capabilities to wipe out humans at all. On the other hand, of course, we have utopia. So having this fantastic view on machines doing all the work and tasks for us, so we can lay back and relax and enjoy the show, basically. But in order to understand, or the question that I have in addition to that is, why do we actually fear artificial intelligence or something that's unknown so badly? And this is also where one of my first findings is coming from. When we can't explain something, when we don't understand something, then this is something humans usually fear. And the universe is a great example because we fear the unknown. Nevertheless, we are fascinated by it. So we go out there, we fly there because we want to discover it. Although the whole results or outcome that might appear is unknown and uncertain. So what I want to try now is also to give you a short statement of the founder of the Future of Life Institute, Jan Tallinn, who was also co-founder of Skype, who has one thought around it, which says that we as humans are just smart enough to develop some sort of intelligence, but we're actually not really smart enough to understand its consequences. And this also leads to kind of an analogy that I want to share with you, which is the analogy between aliens and intelligent machines. When we think about aliens, another species that is more intelligent, that has better capabilities, that is smarter, stronger, even more than us, then we think that they will wipe us out as well. And this is very similar to intelligent machines. We think that they act in the same way as humans do, and not that they have different thought processes at all. Another analogy to compare to that is the Planet of the Apes, which leads to another finding. Because besides just having this fear around another species that's more intelligent, we also tend to assume that more intelligent species and machines, as the analogy says, act in the same way as we do. And that's an interesting view that we need to consider when we think about the future of AI, because we tend to think, although they are more intelligent, they think the same selfish, the same power-hungry, and self-destructive way as humans do. And that, to me, sounds completely bullshit. Because if there's something more intelligent out there, why should they do that? So, when we really think about a really intelligent machine, they think first of all like a machine, and then we need to acknowledge that they think different, that they will think different as humans. If they will have different thought processes, they will have different motivations in order to execute a specific task, and of course, they will act in any kind of different way considered that they have more information available. They have a broader picture available these days, or in the future. So, getting back to today, we already have kind of intelligent and smart machines. But we need to acknowledge as well that they are very limited. They act still in a specific framework. There are, of course, advanced technologies already out there that can beat humans in complex games like Go, but it's still considered weak AI. So nothing at all that compares to human intelligence or strong artificial intelligence that we aim for. So until now, a machine will always reflect the values, the needs, and the most dangerous part to me, the wants of its creator. So when we really think about intelligent machines these days, my fear would be the intent of the people who develop and who use an intelligent machine these days. Another fear besides the fear of being wiped out by machines and intelligence at all, more sophisticated intelligence at all, is of course the fear about losing our jobs. It's a very intrinsic fear as well, because our jobs give us meaning in our life, and don't having this meaning anymore is something that really scares people. But if you would ask me in the morning, or my mother would ask me in the morning, hey, I would love to take over all your work and all your tasks, I would say, awesome, let's party time. So why do we fear this actually? You know, somebody's doing our job so we can relax like the utopia thing. That should be the goal. The fear is because it's becoming very visible, and it's becoming with AI on a very rapid, it's becoming visible very rapidly and also tangible. When we take, for example, the biggest workforce in the United States, the truck drivers, and all their associated businesses attached to that, there are more than 8 million people that will be replaced by autonomous vehicles. That's a matter of fact. That will happen sooner than later. Everybody's talking about companies that put self-driving cars in place, but that's not a big deal. Self-driving trucks are much more relevant to the economy. But besides that, this is not the only type of business that will be affected. All types of businesses or jobs that will be affected are those who have very repetitive processes. And this will happen in the next 10 to 15 years already. But on the other hand, the positive effect, of course, is that we all ran by analyzing our history through these kind of changes all the time. The farming business has been partially automated, or at least machines help us. The manufacturing business getting automated, but still people have jobs. And we are growing as a population in general, and we still have more and more jobs to come. So this is actually a natural process. And humans will always have still capabilities that are different or preferred than machines in specific ways. There are, of course, people with putting out very harsh statements based on the statement of Andreessen Horowitz, that software is eating the world. Darius Wershkov, it's a popular media theorist and writer, put out the statement that either you have to learn to program or you will be programmed, which is of course as well right. But on the other hand, there are very smart people out in the world that are already reacting on this drastic change, like the government of Canada, which created an initiative called Inspired Minds, which published potential jobs in 2030. And there we see jobs out there, for example, like a purchase prediction analyst. Sounds interesting, right? Or a robot counselor. That's a really fancy job, I have to imagine. Or an ecosystem monitor. You see that I'm developing an ecosystem. I'm really excited to figure out what that might be. So there's lots of opportunities out there, but it's all about that we as humans need to be able to adapt. We need to change. And that's the most important thing, because the jobs that will be out there will also be climb up the pyramid of our needs. So we move away from jobs where we, for example, in the food industry, where we cultivate, where we process and transport and sell, for example, food. But we will go up the ladder in terms of jobs where we create new dairy, where we create new recipes and other sorts on top of it. Because what will happen is, on the one hand, we have many more people in the world that will be capable or able to consume goods and services, and on the other hand, they will become more and more individualized. So we need more and more people to think about how can we make, for example, a jeans more individualized than it is now, or make food more individualized than we can buy it now. So there are kind of three focus areas that come to my mind when I think about what we need to do in order to cope with AI as a society. One, of course, is for the societal system in general. I call it as a full survival mode, because thousands of years ago, we have been hunting and fighting for our food and to survive. And to me, basically, it's the same what we do now. Of course, we're not really fighting, but every morning we get up, we go to our job, we earn money to make our living. That's some sort of fight, or some sort of survival. What artificial intelligence will be able is that we can go up the ladder as well and say we don't have to do this anymore, because all our basic needs can be delivered by a machine. We have, of course, needs to adapt in order to make this happen, because either our governments, either our society systems are, prepared for this. There's lots of ideas out there. One of them is the universal income, which has been tested in the Nordics already and also in Africa with amazing outcome. The satisfaction in the society has been increased, as well as the health. On the other hand, also the innovation has increased in society, and that led to a much bigger drive of the economy itself. And that's, of course, also the second part we need to focus on, our economy. Our economy has to change as well. When we have something that is AI and machines are doing most of our basic tasks, we need to move from an input-focused approach to an output-focused approach. And that then, of course, means that we might, change our taxation systems or other things around that. And last but not least, it's a mindset change, which is the biggest challenge that we as humans have. We need to change our behaviors, we need to change our values and our beliefs. We need to be open for what's coming up and what's next, and we need to really influence influence our future. And therefore, if I would have to answer the question, can our society cope with AI? My answer would be yes. But of course with an if. If our humans, or we, can adapt as quickly as the development of artificial intelligence is moving further. So, closing up, I have a basic question for you. So, everybody who is not scared about artificial intelligence, could you please do me a favor and raise your hand? Yeah? No, that's a good amount of number. There was a study out there conducted last year in 2015 in January, and it was 534 participants. So we can discuss if this is relevant or not, but it's the only thing that is out there asking this question. And it's relieved that more than 2/3 of people, so similar like in this room, are actually not scared about the concept of artificial intelligence. Another roughly 60% have actually stated that they think that it's beneficial to their business and to their society. So that's a very generic question, but what we figured out when working with people, when working with businesses, that the closer the topic gets about artificial intelligence, the closer the use case gets to a person's work, to a person's belief, the more fear is actually rising up. So let me close with a quote of Roy Barrett today, who says that we need to have more respect for the unknown, and therefore participate proactively in the future to create a better living with artificial intelligence. Thanks very much.
Thank you. A lot of talk about fear.
Yes, of course. That's what catches the attention. Right?
I'm just going to start by saying, I don't think that fear is the strongest human emotion. I think vanity is. How does that fit in? How does vanity fit into your artificial intelligence play?
Good question. Never thought about that.
We had a pledge today to only ask uncomfortable questions. So, while you think of that, and you guys think of questions for Christoph, when we look at artificial intelligence, sometimes it's simplified as quite binary. So it's artificial intelligence and humans on the other side. Well, if you look at Watson, there's a big element that's important, which is the manual curation as part of the process. What's your job in explaining the intermesh between the human and the artificial intelligence?
So basically, how IBM states this as well is that we are building something that assists the humans in terms of expertise and so on, right? So we are not have no intent to replace the human at all. We just, as mentioned, we want
to put it
mission.
Up there, would have been a weird mission statement. We're
yeah,
here
course,
to replace humans.
Right. Yeah, that's why I haven't seen any kind of logos on this thing, because it was a lot about fear. But what we need to acknowledge is that the whole field about artificial intelligence is not only broad, it's something that we can't even really understand. There are lots of other topics out there which is about self-consciousness, about machines. Will a machine ever know that it's a machine, like a stone doesn't know that it's not a stone or it's a stone, which we have not covered. But when we think about intelligent machines, we see that there are lots of different spectrums that you can make use of it these days. So you can use it for specific advanced analytics in order to get more information out of your data or of the data that's publicly available. But on the other hand, what's really exciting to me is that you have the capabilities to really rethink how products are used and how products are designed in the future. Because having an intelligent interface on the opposite of your application or of your tool gives us a new type of control about the tools and the services that we can provide to our customers and users. When we think about this whole IoT topic, this is amazing because everybody talks about IoT, but nobody really talks about artificial intelligence behind it. But that's necessary. Think about, we can use a system that's intelligent because via computer vision it can see or recognize that in the kitchen that there's a kid of 4 years, it's alone in the kitchen, so it turns off the gas and all the other electricity so that nothing can happen, right? We can think about smart agents out there where we see it also with other companies that have bot stores these days, where you have an intelligent kind of expert on the side of you, but instead of having this awkward tool where you type in a question, then it gives you related answers to related questions, you have somebody who really gives you concrete answers and examples, and if it doesn't know the answer, it asks you further to provide more info. And that's something where we see a lot of change. And that also means, for example, speech interfaces. So what can we do instead, when you think about construction workers, they are out there, it's noisy, it's dirty, they have gloves on and everything. If they can use a real good system that, where you can talk into it, to keep your project management up to date, which is very difficult today, that has an ultimate ROI in the end. And that's how we, I would say, think about product design, product development.
Very interesting. I think from an audience point of view, do we have any questions?
Sure.
One second, I'm just going to ask one in between, so you're on the queue. No, I think from the audience point of view, we've got two different strands of why we're curious and wanted you on stage. One is obviously to learn a bit more about artificial intelligence and your view on it. But the other thing is, we're startups, and how can we utilize Watson, and how can we tag onto that to make better products?
The interesting part is, I compare it with these kind of hosting services that have come up 10, 12 years ago, where 10, 12 years ago, we had to struggle a couple of days with IT experts to get an online or web application up and running in service, make it accessible. Then companies came where you just actually threw it on their solution system, their systems, and it just worked. So people could start thinking about A/B testing and other stuff that makes it more competitive. The same kind of change we see these days with algorithms. So bringing actually data scientists, from the basement up to the creative level, where they can think about building on top of system cognitive solutions like Watson, with our prediction engines, recommendations engines, and other stuff. Another aspect is that you have the ability now to talk to much more people about it, because product developers, product designers, marketeers, salespeople, everybody now can start grasping what this is about and how it can be beneficial to your business, to you as a startup. And that increases, the whole leverage of this technology. And for startup itself, as a big corporation like IBM, you have the startup programs. So if you just go there, you can just sign up and use this for free for a year, for example.
You got an opportunity to sell a little.
No,
and we have a question. This is good.
You can ask that way.
Pretty close by, so maybe for the other people. So I guess the general scare comes from general purpose AI, right? And we're kind of still far away from there. So I think in the meantime we have to sort of make people in society aware of the benefits of AI. And there's actually quite a lot of AI out there, like Facebook, sort of like the predictions for what news feeds come in, like Siri is out there, like even hedge funds are starting to use like predictions for what investments to make. So that's all good, but I think we'll have to sort of like make people aware a little bit more that this is happening. And basically my question is, IBM Watson is mainly focusing its efforts right now on healthcare. Is there a specific reason for that? Is that actually also to sort of create a positive thinking around what AI can do? Is that sort of a strategic decision on that side as well, or is there something else happening there?
IBM by nature focuses on verticals, so that's our industries. That's the approach that IBM has taken. So compared to other companies, we don't focus on general AI, we focus on specific industry solutions, and that's why we focus on verticals. And healthcare is obviously one of them, because it's an interesting aspect because it ties perfectly into with our basic needs. Watson has been very often in media about attempts to heal cancer and other sorts of grand challenges of humanity, and health plays into that spectrum. So that's one of the reasons. The other one is that it connects to all sorts of wearables and IoT, to all sorts of data. So it's a very good platform in industry to test a lot of these things. But besides that, we focus on finance and insurance. We focus also on medical solutions. We have a large focus on retail and commerce, and IoT in general, of course. So it's not a specific focus area, but it's one of the verticals that we have also strong partnerships with. Like
you have to ask annoying questions, right?
Go.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable. Uncomfortable questions.
Let's go for uncomfortable.
Is IBM Watson a little bit scared of advanced neural networks and deep learning, or not really scared? No. Okay. Good answer.
I'm not. I can only give you my personal statement on that, right? I mean, when we think about deep neural networks and reinforcement learning, these are technologies that are techniques that have been invented in the 50s, 40s, 30s. So it's nothing new, right? It's just the way how we put these things together. In the 60s, there was a computer that predicted, if you should do once you go to the left side or to the other side. It just took one day actually to calculate the next step, which was quite awkward. So computing power was quite good. But what we see with Watson in particular is that deep learning, in essence, that there are many different variations of how we can apply deep learning, and that's one of the core strengths, right? So that's why we also on board the different approaches.
I like IBM Watson, so it's good.
No, you don't have to, right? Any more questions? Sorry.
No. Any more questions from the audience? And we have another question from the audience. Henrik?
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
can be a good sign or a bad sign, but you already know his name.
No, I can read. I think that is a good sign.
So I was wondering, right now you have something that's sort of like pattern recognition and some semantics on top and ontologies and everything. Thank you very much. And I was then thinking, do you have an ethical dilemma of how far you should go
What do you have?
An ethical dilemma about how far you should go when it comes to building sentient computers? Should you add agency? Should you add up to being able to have consciousness, to have the concept of itself and so on? Like, should you ever stop, or should you just go on just because it's technically possible to do so?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that nobody can be scared at the moment about a computer getting self-conscious, because we don't even understand why we are self-conscious, so how can we ever apply it to a machine at the moment? And the other part is that, as I mentioned, right, I think it's more a way how we cope with these technologies these days, instead of what these technologies are capable of in the future. So if we say, why should a machine be not able to analyze us? What are the negative impacts on it? It has just a negative attitude or a negative view on it because people, or we tend to have these negative views what people can actually do with it and these bad things.
Right.
I think there are only benefits that we can use for it.
But if it can analyze you and it can plan so that it has its own agenda, then it can also manipulate you.
But why should it do that? That's the question, and that goes into this whole self-conscious area, right? Why should it do that? Was there somebody in the back who programmed it that way, or who had the intent to use it for this specific case?
Or why did you choose to go into this area in your life?
Sorry, why?
Did someone program you to do this?
I don't know, but that's all about my experiences, right? And I make a decision. But that's a very philosophical aspect behind it, right? And I think we need to become aware of that. Everything that these machines do will be, on the one hand, whether reflect the person who creates it, or it's a reaction on the environment that we have. And if you would ask me if I would be scared about a machine at some point killing us, if I look into the world where we are killing other people, where people are dying, where people of hunger and or other kind of issues, where we are eroding our our woods and everything, I can guess that the machine might come to the conclusion that we're actually the biggest threat to this planet and to this world in general. So yeah, but if we solve that, why should we be scared about the intelligence system?
So if we solve war,
or
yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting topic, and I assume that you have this a lot because human resistance to change, and therefore you do the doomsday scenario, which I assume also is intellectually a good exercise to do in order to bring everyone with you. And one of the things I was thinking about is, what does this mean in terms of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence?
There are lots of threat intelligence. There's a lot of stuff out there that's used in terms of analyzing threats in advance. There are famous example about Target in the United States that got hacked. It started out 3 to 3.5 months prior to the actual attack, where it has been identified as a false alarm, security alarm. But with the capabilities of cognitive systems that are able to analyze more data in a different way from different sources and build a context around that and make a meaning out of it, then this could have been avoided potentially. So that's in terms of cybersecurity. But my answer goes also to the other side, right? Whatever we can do to fend off cybersecurity attacks can be used to attack me as well. So I can use the same technologies to identify the weakest point in my organization by analyzing behavior of people in social media, on sending out emails and other kinds of stuff.
Phenomenal.
I don't know.
Are you here so we can ask you questions later? Are you staying
Yes,
today?
yes, sure.
I'd like to leave with one of the things I was reading on your website's mission statement, which fits in today with our lateral thinking and different perspectives.
Mine or IBM's?
IBM's.
Oh, okay.
Scaling minds.
Yes.
Which I think is a very good, big, new buzzword statement and I'm very glad that you came and shared your thoughts on artificial intelligence.
Thanks for sharing this mission statement with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.